Well, we're going to get started. Welcome, everybody. This is Draw Me Anything. I'm Jason Chatfield. I'm a cartoonist and comedian in New York City. This is my Substack, New York Cartoons. And today I have with me the author and New Yorker cartoonist, prolific New Yorker cartoonist, and author of one of my favorite newsletters, The Bob. It's The Bob. It's Bob Eckstein. How you doing, Bob?
Doing great, Jason. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad we did this. You were saying that you are not unaccustomed to being just thrown into the fire and expected to dance. What happened there? You were thrown on stage. What was
Oh,
that
it's
story? I haven't heard this one.
not just one time. I mean, this has happened. Me and Jason were just hooking up, but we just learned that we didn't have each other's emails. They weren't coming through. So, there was a little bit of a rush right here. But I was saying, we're used to this. I remember one time I was supposed to speak at this big conference with Leslie Stahl from 16 Minutes with Ann Patchett. And the last second, they told me they won't go on stage with me. The one woman wanted the stage for herself. She didn't want me to be part of the panel. Um, this was like a total last second thing. And they said, what we're going to do is we're going to have her go on with Leslie by herself as she requests. And we're going to have you go on first for like a half an hour. I went on without a moderator and had to do 30 minutes. And it went just fine. Actually, I'm going to tell you the whole
Just off the top of your head, just 30 minutes.
Well, what happened was I had a lot of material to work with because Trump was just elected the evening before. So I talked about Trump, talked about that. And actually, I'll tell you the whole story is that it went well. And then they came on and they tried to be funny and they bombed. And it was really great satisfaction.
Perfect justice. There is justice in comedy. This is one of the great things that I like reading about on your Substack is because you talk about writing. You have taught writing at NYU, but you teach. You are a good. You're able to kind of talk about writing in a non-esoteric, like not in a way that's accessible, in a way that's you can kind of it's not too complicated, because writing is complicated, and especially comedy writing. There is complex, and there are a lot of dynamics that are difficult to comprehend. But you seem to be able to distill them into these great sort of stories and structures, which is great. You and I think Matt Ruby are two of my favorite writers on Substack on comedy writing. Do you read Matt Ruby at all?
I don't, but thanks for the compliment, and I'll check it out. Writing is something that I'm not great at, but it's all about storytelling. It's all making it accessible, making it communicate. And a lot of times when people send me their work, they want me to check out and stuff. Sometimes they don't realize they're not reading the room, that it gets too deep and stuff, and it becomes too flowery, and then they step on their own jokes. They're kind of lost when it's overwritten. And sometimes it's just a succinct thing. And of course, I've learned a lot from my writing from observing stand-ups and seeing how they succinctly say something and they try to pare it down. I mean, that's of course what everyone talks about. Seinfeld and Chris Rock, they're always tweaking to make their stories more comprehensible, more digestible.
So the word economy and the placement of the words and all of that sort of stuff and the accessibility of it so that they don't lose the audience's attention. They're like directing the attention in a very professional, like psychologically directing the audience's attention. That seems to be what they will do.
But it's more than that. It's actually also the fact that nowadays comedy has this criteria that people want to, oh my God, that's me. That's, I can relate with what they're saying. And if you're writing and overwriting and making it something that's beautifully written, you're kind of putting up a wall between you and the viewer or listener in which they're now seeing you as elitist and you're like this writer who can write better than them. I think it's better to meet people on their own level, whether it's a cartoon or a joke. And for better or worse, I mean, I was hoping when we did this talk that we would get into a little deep dive about the changes you and me both see in comedy.
Yes, absolutely.
Everyone, how people who are trying to create this have needed to kind of shift and adjust and be a little more aware of what works and what's kind of not being accepted.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting that you mentioned that because I know that you and I have talked about this in the past, but and you I think have an interesting lens on it, and I think you're right. Making things accessible instead of just being too clever for your own good is such an important lesson to learn. Like, yes, great. If you have a big vocabulary and everything, that's congratulations. But if you want people to actually read your work without sounding like an elitist, like you're going to have to make it more digestible. I don't know if it was Christopher Hitchens or whoever it was saying, don't use a big word when a diminutive one would suffice. But he was a demon for that. He would use all these really strange, very complex words just to kind of mess with people, I think, sometimes, and
Yeah.
prove that he had this impressive vocabulary. But the way things have changed, I was listening to, I mentioned Matt Ruby only because he has a great Substack called Funny How. And it dissects, he's a stand-up comedian here in New York City, he plays a comedy cellar, he's plays all over. He's been on this show before as well. And I think you'd enjoy him because he does get into the weeds on the mechanics of comedy, but also the evolution of comedy that we were talking about, how things have changed, what people laugh at has changed, what's considered funny has changed. As you say, this new sort of, it's not necessarily new, but it seems to be more, valued as oh my God, that's so me, or I identify with that personally. My ego is
Yeah.
reacting to this. That is something that evolves, and there are the two kinds of comedians. There's the ones who have been doing the same joke for 20 years and now wonder why it's not working anymore. And then there's the comics who read the room and the zeitgeist and go, well, okay, that joke doesn't work anymore because we're not thinking this, saying this, doing this anymore. And I think it was Seinfeld that was saying every 20 years or so, it does kind of turn over this kind of idea of what is funny or what is considered funny. The mechanics stay the same, but the topics change.
It can go too much the other way too.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, because like for instance, everyone I know now is submitting. You know,
Mm.
most of my friends are submitting now, and I'm not talking about cartoon friends. I'm talking about my lawyer friends.
Yeah,
My,
dentists.
yeah, my dentist is submitting to Emma,
Yeah,
and the cartoon caption contest, I think, started this because it turned it from vocation to recreation.
right.
And I think that, you know, having it as a Williamsburg open mic to me is very, but it is a bad because you don't want to be like on the high mountain thinking that you're all that. And
Yeah,
because it's not this way anymore. What used to be when I grew up way back many, many decades ago, Mad Magazine instructed me of what I should think is funny. The odd
yep,
Mary Tyler Moore show. There were things that were barometers to me where I went home from school and I would be told what to laugh at. And I was like getting a master class in comedy. But nowadays, and tell me if you disagree with this in your personal experience, I find that everyone thinks they're the funniest person in their group and their room. Everyone is funny. And that's
right.
great. But it is something that is like, missing. There's no sort of, whatever you want to call it. I'll call it American confidence because I just did an interview recently. It was yesterday. Someone said,
Mhm.
you came off with a lot of American confidence. And then I read about this. David Bowie was talking about this too.
Yeah.
So, you're Australian. I want to hear, is there such a thing? Are you guys behind our back talking about us having American confidence?
Yes, I'll tell you what it is. So the British and the Australians and the New Zealanders have this, and the Canadians to a degree. It's this sense of, in Australia, they say if you're too confident, if you're too self-confident, you drink your own bathwater. He's drinking his own fucking bathwater, this guy. So it's a tall poppy syndrome is what it is. So you're not really meant to think highly of yourself. Even if you are a high achiever and you've clearly got all these accolades, and you are genuinely funny, you're not allowed to say you're funny, and you're not allowed to be so confident such that you're obviously like aware of your ability. So you have to always talk yourself down and bring yourself down and self-immolate. You're like, oh no, you're not allowed to be confident in the way that Americans are confident in as much as, okay, so here's Ricky Gervais, I think, paired this beautifully. He said, in America, children, like in elementary school, are told you could be president one day. In the UK, they're told just calm down, stay in your station, just
Yeah.
settle down. You're told just know your place, know your ways, just calm down. No one aspires to be the prime minister, But every kid is told you could be a rock star, you could be a singer, you could be an influencer, you could be a comedian, an actor, you could be a Hollywood superstar if you get discovered in LA while you're bussing a table. Like there's all these stories that Americans are told that everyone's exceptional. And if everyone's exceptional, no one's exceptional. And that goes to the point that you're saying is that if everyone's a comedian, no one's a comedian.
If everyone's
And
on stage, there's nobody in the audience. That's how,
right. That's social media for me is
yeah,
is that everyone's on stage, which
yeah,
means that's we're all performing monkeys now. Instead of so the creator of Patreon did a great piece in the New York Times yesterday, which was about these algorithms and how they've kind of gamed our brains to be these performers, but also not be good at a thing, not value craftsmanship or the time it takes to make something good. It's just the lowest common denominator, the bottom of the brainstem, whatever the quickest thing is to get your attention or your eyeballs. And it's kind of exhausting and it's ruining the craft. It's ruining the craft of music and art and acting and comedy. And like, it's just very shallow. And so he's saying there is a way to fix it, but these companies have no interest in fixing it because it affects their bottom line to have people see the stuff that they click to follow. If they followed you, they want to see your stuff, but the algorithm has no interest in showing you their stuff. It's not going to enrage you and engage you. So, yeah,
right.
here we are.
Right. And, the confidence building comes from a lot of different places. All these humor workshops, they preach what you just said about
Mm,
you do it, anybody can do it. And as a result, I have found like a lot of pieces in McSweeney's and Points and Case sound very similar.
mm,
They could be done by the same person because they're all doing the same exercises and they're all learning the same sort of techniques in writing
mm.
humor, which, it's fine to a certain extent, but I do find it's cranking out this certain style of humor that is very similar.
Yeah, I think every generation has that to a degree, but it's more pronounced now because everyone is reading the same resources. In
Yeah.
the way that everyone read Judy Carter when, back when stand-ups were starting, they're like, oh, you got to read Jean Perret, you got to read Judy Carter's Comedy Bible, you got to read, there's certain books that every comic kind of read. Now it's like, well, everyone took Gotham Writers, everyone took this course. So you kind of know, oh, you're using that device. Oh, I see you're using that mechanism. That's interesting. Okay. It sounds like you've developing a voice that you heard, which is kind of what you and I did. My pedigree comedically was mad as well. I grew up like you, just that was my masterclass in comedy, was just reading Mad. And I think it was a masterclass. They were fantastically silly and funny and self-aware and self-effacing, but also incisive and acerbic and hilarious. And you grew up here in New York, right? From the Bronx.
Yeah, correct.
Right. So you already had that New York Jewish sensibility. There were words in Yiddish that I learned through Mad Magazine. There were terms that I had no idea what the hell they were even talking about. I lived in Perth. You lived in Manhattan. I mean, you probably
Well,
got it
no,
even more than I did.
no, I mean, all my work is pretty dumbed down because English is not my first language. So there's that built-in thing that I'm not going to have a big vocabulary in my work. So
Mm,
that's good. And then the other thing is that, well, I mean, let me let you go on with that because I'm going to go down a rabbit hole about this because, yeah, I mean, it brings up a lot of weird stuff because I wasn't exposed to a lot. I grew up very poor,
mhm.
a very late start as a result. I didn't start doing gag cartoons until way later in life because just didn't know about it.
Well, from my understanding, and tell me if I've got the story wrong, but it was Sam Gross who invited you to the lunch, the fabled New Yorker cartoonist lunch, and said next time come back with a batch of cartoons.
Yeah.
And he was the one that kind of encouraged you to actually pitch. And as you say, it was pretty late, right? You're in your 30s. How old were you?
Well, it was 2007, so geez, 20 years ago. Like I was in my 40s.
Right.
It wasn't. I think he just recognized my Bronx accent, and he's Bronx,
He's from the Bronx, yeah.
and he figured like, oh, I gotta save this guy. This guy is really having a hard time at it. So we became friends and stuff, and we bonded that way. And then I learned that there's a lot of people who admired Sam too and looked up to him and stuff like that. So Sam, by the end, we were very close. And well, actually, when he passed away, I think it really closed the door to a lot of things about this field of ours. A lot
Mm,
changed in his passing that
mhm,
don't happen anymore. The sort of sense of there was a competition that happened when we all got together and we all tried to be inspired by the other's work. We, passed it around and stuff. Something that's missing now is everyone's now scattering about trying to find their way of how they're going
mhm,
to living. Because when I knew Sam back then, I was making a living from cartooning. I was working for all these different places that no longer exist.
mm. Yeah, so you were pitching to the New Yorker, Saturday Evening Post, Esquire, Playboy, all the
Well, I'm
different.
not that old. Okay, now you're way back. There was places like Barron's, and there was
Barron's, sure.
Harvard Business Review and things like that.
Yep, yep.
And right now, it's the thing is so different. I mean, I still submit to the New Yorker, but I haven't been in the magazine in years. I haven't sold a cartoon in years, and I'm selling now to patrons and fans on the side that
Mhm,
going to see my work. It's very strange because, I'm doing now work that I know is for an individual or whatever.
mm,
And I do have a folder on my desktop called A Work, in which basically no one has seen my best work except for maybe one or two people if I'm lucky. And
mm.
it's a shame that that's the system. That it's sad that my best work is not being seen because I'm only posting online stuff that is not my.
Rejected or that
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
yeah, right.
I'm afraid to not be able then to use it down the road if something
Yeah.
changes. So, but that's where we are. And, you know, at one point, it might be a good thing. Maybe it's a way of me forcing myself out of a comfort zone and trying different things. And that's
Mhm,
why I love it. People who are frustrated because I hear from cartoonists all the time who are really, down about the situation that they're not, able to make a living from this.
mm.
Suggest to try to turn it around to a positive that maybe, you know, it gets them to try something that they never would have thought of.
Right. I think well that kind of brings us full circle to um your you're always pivoting. I mean, I know that you said your hand was forced, but I feel like you're always pivoting. You're always pitching books. You've got your Substack, which is great. You have you are very industrious, I think, and there are cartoonists who have hustle, and you can tell, you know them when you see them. You know what they because you see them pop up here and here, and you're like, wow, how did they get that? Who's doing this? And then there's other cartoonists who are like, I'm not doing that. I'm not joining, TikTok or Substack. They're like, no, I'm done. I'm not going to keep doing this because there was an era in which they absolutely had to, pivot from say like print newspapers or magazines to like jump online and do stuff. But some cartoonists are just like, ugh, it's too much. I'm exhausted. I'm not going to do this anymore. And as you say, yeah, I hear from them as well. When I was president of the National Cartoonist Society, there were cartoonists who were just like, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep every time something like this changes. Now I've got to do a whole different thing. And it's just,
No one should do anything they don't want to do.
sure.
When
Yeah.
I do Substack because I really enjoy it. I mean, I
Yeah, you're good
was
at it. Yeah.
your
Right.
sub enjoyed it, and I said, "Oh, I think I'd have fun too, sharing whatever." And I wasn't thinking of it in monetary terms because
Mm,
the money not for me, it's not really big. I'm still growing, and so it's a little bit of pocket money. But no one should do something and they're not passionate about. But I do think that people have more passions that they might not realize. There might be
mm,
in their back burner from their past that they, took a different path in life. But maybe now's the time to revisit that option.
mm.
And for
Yeah.
instance, I was really into games. My family played games, and we played Monopoly and we played Risk, and that was what the family did when I was really young. And I never thought about much. Didn't play games as an adult. But now I'm revisiting it, and I'm now gonna be designing games. I'm gonna do it as a side gig only because I really like it. I got an opportunity. It will become something hopefully that will make some money, but I think sometimes people just have to go back and see what things that they put aside in the past that now they could say, "Let's see this as a chance to do those things I gave up earlier."
To pivot and evolve into something else. Yeah. No, that's interesting. And if it is in the back burner, it's in the back of your head, you're like, oh, I used to like this thing and I kind of put it aside and now it has like a new life. As you say, you can kind of dig into that and it's novel now because you're like, I've never done this before. And Jeff Knurek, who does the Jumble, he's a big games guy. He designs games and he loves it. He's obsessed with games and
Yeah.
like board games, also like physical sport game, like actual games. You know, like he comes out to New York. There's a big conference here every year with games and toys
Yeah.
and yeah, he's here every like Hasbro and all these people come out and he's big into that world. And I hear him talk about it. He's so passionate about it, and I'm like, that's so far from my area of interest and expertise, really, or really competency. And I'm like, I'm so fascinated in this world because I've never even dipped my toe in at all.
Yeah. Jeff has a shout out. He's
Oh,
mentioning that.
look, he's in the chat. I didn't know he was on.
Jeff,
See you at Toy Fair on Feb 14. There he is. I didn't
yeah.
know he was watching.
The other day I went over to
Hey.
I was at Bob Mankoff's house, and he was talking about games. He's working on
Yeah.
his own game, and I got a chance to try it, and it was really great
Mhm.
and exciting. And it's an example of people seeing what else they could do with this creative muscle they have that sometimes is nowadays is being underutilized for different reasons. So
Mm. For those who don't know, Bob Mankoff, previous longtime cartoon editor of the New Yorker, current cartoon editor at Airmail, and a cartoonist in his own right. His brain is always working. He's always noodling away with something. He's a real boffin. He's an early adopter and big into technology and always pivoting. I mean, he's in his what 80? He's 80. I don't want to give away his age, but he's still innovating and thinking, and it's pretty incredible. It's impressive.
it's a really nice house. We had a good time together. I'd like to think that we would be friends if I didn't work for him and he wasn't my boss at one time.
Right.
We
Yeah.
have a lot of things we have interest in. I mean, I kind of vaguely remember, like, when I first met him is when Sam introduced me to him,
Mm.
and he turned me into a cartoonist, and that was actually the easiest time I had as a cartoonist. It became difficult after that day.
Mm.
But we played ping pong, and when I visited him the other day, we went out to his, basketball court, and he picked up the ball, and no exaggeration, he made like 12 shots in a row without a miss.
Really?
Yeah, he's great at foul shots. He's a person who really believes in the theory of repetition and using those, you know, repetitive sort of techniques to get perfection. Uh,
Mm.
one little side note that was fun is I passed Robert Klein's house. Robert Klein lives next door.
Wow. One of the
Robert
greats.
to me is someone I got a chance to meet Robert Klein once. I gave a eulogy for a comedian, and he
Which
came.
comedian?
Len Belzer. Len
Okay.
Belzer was my closest friend. We were best friends, and his brother's Richard Belzer.
Of course, I was going to say that's Richard, the late Richard Bell's husband. I'm sorry, brother.
Yeah, and Len was the host of the NPR Comedy Hour. And
Right.
through Len, that I had already known a lot of people, but also I got to know even more people through Len. Like Len would be interviewing people like George Carlin and
Sure.
Robin Williams and stuff like that. And anytime we were at his house, somebody could come in and join us at any moment. And then I got a chance to meet them, like Larry Miller or his brother Richard. One example is I remember one time Len running to get a phone call. And he's gone for a while. I'm going to get myself a drink and stuff. And he comes back. He's still laughing. He cannot stop laughing. I go, "Who's on the phone?" He goes, "Jerry Lewis." And he repeats this joke that Jerry said to him. But I got exposed to that world. And at the funeral, the first row, well, as I'm looking out, was made up of, all these icons and
It's a
comics.
murderer's row.
Yeah, it was don't yeah, it's like Robert Klein said after my eulogy, he goes, "You killed it." Because
Nice. That's a huge compliment. That's great.
it was Gilbert Gottfried, and
Wow.
and I got to know Gilbert and other people through my own way because I worked at Spy Magazine, a magazine I don't think anyone's ever heard of, but
Right.
they're a group of comedians who we all worked way back when at Spy
Mhm.
Mag, and that's where I knew Graydon Carter and Kurt Anderson, and I got a chance to meet that circle of people.
Wow.
but it wasn't until much later I got into cartoons. I was writing humor for places instead, and I didn't consider myself a cartoonist until Sam said, "Well, why don't you give it a try?" And then he kind of, convinced me to dive into that world,
Mm.
and I enjoyed it.
Well, I mean, I'm glad he did because I mean, there are some cartoons of yours that I see pop up all the time, and like the Guru on the Mountain with the Rubik's cube head is one of the great. I think it's an iconic cartoon. I know you're going to be bashful about it, but I think it's one of the best. It's a perfect mediocre cartoon. It's a captionless. It's the god particle of cartoons.
No, this is not the time to be immodest. I'm not going to be bashful about anything. And when you say you pop up everywhere, I thought you were going to point out the fact that I have the honor of seeing that cartoon as a tattoo on people's ass.
Wow,
I've,
that's next level.
I've seen
Talk about a
it
pivot
showed
from
up places. I mean, yeah, I mean, we don't have the Oscar or anything, but we'll get our work stolen and seen in places.
yeah. They say that the cartoonist's equivalent of being hung in the Louvre is being stuck in the John, just up in the toilet. People see it every day. I wanted to kind of mention the fact that I have no idea how you do this, but you seem to churn out more books than I don't even I've more comic strips than I've done. It's insane how many books. Like I this book when I got this, it's called most Footnotes from the Most Fascinating Museum. Steve Martin, who's he, said it's a joyous book. This was an amazing book to sort of look through because you did the work. You went to you learned about all these museums. You drew them all. They're beautiful. They're full color paintings. They're paintings, really, is of these amazing iconic museums and galleries. And you wrote about them. And then within it feels like minutes, you came out with Inspired by Cats, which is one of many books you've done. And it's just, and again, it's this big book full of authors and creators who have cats with paintings in them and writing. How do you have the time? How do you come up with this stuff? I have no idea. You're so productive.
No,
How do
it's
you do
funny.
this?
Before we got together, a couple of people asked me that question that they wanted
Yeah,
me to answer on the show.
yeah, good.
So I could think
I
of
want to know.
I can think of 2 tips.
Okay,
One tip was there was this artist who is not a friend, but I got to know her, friend of my wife, and she cranks out work like I can't believe. She's like a
right.
work, and I asked her exactly that years ago. I said, "How is it that you're able to come out with so many books?" And she leaned in and said, "No TV or movies.
Oh wow.
I'm totally useless if we want to talk about Breaking Bad, Sopranos, all of these iconic shows like Mad Men, I've never seen. And
Mm,
we'll have news on in the background maybe,
mm,
but you'll be amazed how much time frees up when you cut out some things. And I have been making sacrifices when it comes to writing and stuff. Another tip I was given by another writer was the only way to get done so much work was to start like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning.
right. When your brain is fresh. Yeah.
No, it's not even that. Just that you're away from all the emails and messages, which
Sure.
by
Yeah.
the way, I get to. I have like 100 each day. There's no way. I mean, a lot of them are junk mail. They're asking me to
Sure.
give donations to something, but I cannot get through everything. And I still don't even know which one's a fake and AI. That's all.
Right. Well, yeah, you mentioned that. So I was at Stanford last week. I got to give a guest lecture at the Liu Lecture at Stanford, and obviously the elephant in the room. It only came up at the very end in the Q&A was about AI and how it's affecting artists. And I know that you have a story about how it's affecting us now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I do want to give the second tip. The second
Oh,
tip,
I thought the second one was sorry. Go on.
oh, I'm filled with tips. No, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm talking out of my ass, but we'll cut that part out. What I want to say is that the other thing is to accept the fact that not everything you can do is perfect. I have
Hmm.
a lot of friends who are cartoonists and illustrators who are perfectionists.
Mm.
Work is amazing,
Hmm.
but to accept the fact that, you know what, sometimes it's time to just let it go out to the public. And sometimes, and I think that you'll agree, I hope that you agree that being loose and spontaneous is sometimes the best version of something, as
Mm,
opposed to noodling it and reworking it and stuff. And I've really found myself comfortable with my own imperfections. I
good.
learned the beauty of spit and mistakes on the page, and it's okay. It's okay. And you move on. It's better that I produce more work because the truth is that it's impossible for us if we're going to chase the perfect cartoon and just work on one thing forever. We sustain ourselves. We have to be prolific and we have to be willing to understand that there's going to be some people who just want to hear our voice and just go with it.
That's
That's,
good advice.
I hope it helps. As far as the AI story goes,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's a lot of people tell me that, oh, you're not too sure it's going to be that bad as you think. Let's don't start jumping the gun about this. But I will say a couple of years ago, I worked as an art director when um, I had to take a regular job.
Mm,
We financial crisis where someone in our family needed all our savings to help them. And we wound up all of a sudden having bottom. So I took a regular job as an art director at a publishing house. And I was the art director for 12 illustrators. And they were my staff doing inside illustrations and covers and stuff like that. Um, you were actually one of the people, as long, and I was too. You and me both did some work together as illustrators for this company.
I think I know the company you're talking about. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So we were replaced by AI. You know,
Mm,
happened. All the 12 people lost their work. My intention was to give you a regular, steady amount of work. I have always been a fan of your work. I've been trying to pitch you to different publishers. And the problem each time is that they can get someone cheaper, that they can use AI, or they can do a shortcut, and they don't need to hire you. And
mm.
I'm seeing this happen, and I'm fine not working at that place. I mean, I want to go back to my own work, but the point is that it is happening. And I do like AI for medicine, technology, and science. And the problem, though, is that this holds back our creativity. It's not a replacement, though, for what we can do creatively. And I've been trying to speak about this in workshops about how to be more creative so we stay one step ahead of the robots.
Mm. Yeah, well, I think the human creativity element is a piece that is really interesting because it comes back to your imperfection talk. When I know as a struggling, perfectionist, I sometimes just am so crippled by perfectionism that I can't even start a project until the absolute last second, and I'm just like panicking because the deadline is sneaking up and I just have to get it started. And ironically enough, I make more mistakes that way because I'm rushing. Um, but the imperfections are the thing that I'm interested in. I go to galleries and museums like you do, and I look for the little bits where the painter kind of maybe fucked up a little bit. And I'm like, ooh, I bet he hates that. I bet every time he looks at that piece, he just sees that and goes, oh. But and like illustrators, I talk to professional illustrators, people like Peter DeSev and these prolific artists who, again, they are in their own way, they have these perfectionistic tendencies where they look at their work and all they see are the mistakes. But
Yeah.
anyone else will look at the work and go, oh my God, this is a masterpiece. And I have to remind myself that, yeah, it's okay not to have every single thing be perfect. And I do want to thank you for pitching me. I didn't know you would. I mean, that's very kind of you to do that.
I want to share a quick story. I'll try.
Please.
I'll try to keep it quick. When I was at Pratt Institute as a student, I was doing photorealism, and I was doing everything with perfection, and I just couldn't get past that.
Mm.
I started doing things looser and looser because of this teacher, Don Albright. He came up to me and goes, "Look," he goes, "you're in your own corner here. It's going nowhere. You're going to be painting yourself in a corner, literally." And so you learn to loosen up. So he made me for the rest of the year draw with my left hand. And the other thing he made me do, and I brought it with me,
Wow.
I've been trying to grow a bonsai tree. And this is right. So
Amazing.
I
That's
did what,
sweet.
but he made me draw with just a stick. And this is what I did when I was doing work for the Village Voice in
Yeah.
first started. I was using a stick and I was using just an inkwell and dipping it in ink. And actually, I did one quick drawing as we were waiting to come on with the stick,
Mm.
just a portrait of you from.
Nailed it.
So,
It's great.
so I used only a stick, and I was also inspired by two people, Mark Merrick, who's
Sure.
doing very scratchy work, and I embraced that and leaned into that. And the other person was this new group that I started really getting into called The Clash. And Joe Strummer said, the songs, his best songs, the songs that had imperfections. You could hear the spit. And he goes, a polished up song is it doesn't have soul.
Mm,
So try to now do things looser and looser. And I'm still learning now. I'm still guilty of over rendering, but I try not to render it. Things do not need to be accurate, although I do try to capture the accurate mood and
mm,
color and light. The other stuff is not important. I just try to, that's why drawing with a stick is fine, because you're just trying to capture the essence of someone's look. You're not trying to get accurate.
mm. That's amazing. I've never heard of that exercise of just using something as basic as just a stick. And I
Exercise. I worked for 2 years professionally, and that's how I worked.
wow.
Before This was before computers, and I use an Apple Pencil now. But I did send you some work early today, just so you can help me on a personal level. I was sharing a new cover.
Yeah,
That was an oil painting.
that's beautiful.
I do work with traditional supplies, but it doesn't make a difference. People are always asking me, what do you work with? What pen and stuff? And I swear, if you bring up nubs here, I'm going to pivot. Talk about thing. 'Cause I do want
So,
to talk Australian rock bands at some point because I'm really into.
are you like AC/DC and Wolf Mother and
No, I
some of
don't.
these?
No, they're like Midnight Oil, The
Oh,
Split,
sure. Peter Garrett, yeah, absolutely.
and
And in excess.
I'm trying to score tickets now for Nick Cave for my
Oh,
wife.
Nick Cave's incredible. Oh my God, one of the best, one of the greatest.
Oh, my wife.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know he's Australian.
I have to be a little bit worried because my wife's obsession is a little bit whatever. She actually went swimming with him in Washington D.C. recently. She's known him. My I know a lot of people, and I love name dropping, but it's still no match for my wife who knows celebrities all around the world.
Right, right. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. Um, we have 15 minutes left. So what I want to do is I want to talk to you about two things. First of all, you don't have to draw. This is just something I do. And if anyone has any, yeah, you have a stick.
Hello, hello.
You could dip something in your stick and draw, and then reveal it at the end if you
Hey,
like. Everyone in the chat, everyone who's watching, throw suggestions in the chat of anything you want to see me or Bob draw. But the thing I wanted to ask you about, because I am obsessed with, and probably a little too obsessed with, how cartoonists come up with their ideas and how they're processed, and they're like, I'm a real process junkie. So I have talked in the past about Scotch Bath Sunday, my how I used to write my comic strip. I'd get in the bath on a Sunday and have a scotch and just a yellow legal pad and write my comic strip. And that for some reason the bathtub was that little cocoon of whatever that just brought out my creativity for that specific kind of writing. But I know that you have two studios where you sent me this. May I share this?
yeah, please.
Is this your roof?
Yeah, that's my outdoor office. I have two. That's for outdoors if it's not too cold. And to get up there, I use a ladder.
Okay. And
Essentially,
so this is open air, just
yeah, you can see pictures. There's other pictures of the outdoor office. So
right. It's basically on a roof, but you've bolted this presumably to the what do you call them? The slats here underneath.
yeah, it's used as a roof jack, which you
Right.
nail onto the roof. It's when you do shingling, but
Sure.
I just cut up some boards to make an Adirondack bench, and it just cost me
That's
$10. $10 for the whole office, and it
that's
looks out
incredible.
to the walls, and that's where I do my writing, and I'll do like joke ideas.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love that. It's just so simple, but it's perfect. There's you have a second studio, which is your indoor studio, which is here.
Yeah, and
Do you
that
mind
was
me sharing this?
no, this was made because I was doing a graphic novel. I'm still
Right.
published now, and it takes place on a ship. So I decided
Oh.
to procrastinate was I was going to refit my attic to look like the interior of a captain's quarters.
Ships and bottles and
Oh, oh,
yeah.
this is interesting. So I will mention that that's a drawing I did as a kid with crayons. If you go up there, so
Yeah.
people often say, "So when did you change your style, and when did you do this whatever?" So this is not on a computer. This was just with crayons as a kid, but you could see this has got the same sort of palette and the same
Oh,
approach to hues and stuff as I have now, almost 50 years later. So,
wow. Okay.
and that piece is really
Cool.
neat. That's why I worked, and that's when I was trying to get looser and looser. And
Yeah.
yeah, by the way, I should.
Um,
The office was chosen one of the top 10 coolest offices by Macworld magazine. It's been on TV and magazines.
this office,
Yeah.
yeah, I love it. This is great. I love seeing people's studios. I love seeing where people work. It's
I like it. No,
I
it's not work getting done there. There's a day
yeah,
back.
sorry. I love seeing where
Like,
people procrastinate all day.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, there's two great books. I think it's called The Artist Within, and they're photography books. There's two volumes of them, and they're comic artists and cartoonists, and it's the same photographer who just went at everyone from like, Frank Miller to Stan Sakai, Sergio Aragonés, Al Jaffe. It's one of the greatest collections. You could just sit there all day going, just having studio envy, of these people. This is pretty damn cool. This is up there.
Well,
This is amazing.
there's a soundtrack to Seagulls and Ocean. So when I
Of
go into
course.
work and then I turn off the lights and it has ocean lights that go on. I got this idea from the Peabody Essence Museum up in Massachusetts, where they had this
Yeah.
of ships, and they had this like special effects of this glittering light that you would see in the ocean, and
Right.
device for like $19 on Amazon.
So you just cooked them up and then
Yeah,
they just kind of come on at nighttime.
yeah. I'm a big.
That's
I just come up with ways to find ways. Come on.
to procrastinate. I should mention I had a request for a drawing from Paul Nezia. How about Adam and Eve sitting at a restaurant table with the snake as the waiter? Give the snake a bow tie and a cheesy mustache.
Oh, Paul, Paul, you got 15 minutes. What are you doing? I'm looking for.
Also,
Yeah, give me.
I should mention that Alex Hallett mentioned that you're when doing a book about the sea captain thing. She said, you decorating your studio in that style is the cartoonist equivalent of method acting.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about not just your books and again everyone if you're just joining, Bob's latest book inspired by cats, writers and their muses. Nice. This book, when did this come out? Just this past month?
Yeah, about a month ago.
Yeah, it's got an interesting collection of people. My another favorite book of mine in this sort of style is by Mason Curry called Creative Rituals, and it's about all the different writers and poets and artists and composers and actors and people who it sort of details their home, their studio, their process, whether they had a dog, what they did. They all seem to go for a walk. That's the one big thing is they get out in nature and they all seem to go for a walk and they get up early. A lot of them get up early, work in the first sort of hours of the morning before correspondence and email and all that sort of texts all come in. But these are beautiful. I mean, it's the color is great. The printing is it came out really nicely. All of this is just there's so much detail in here. George Plimpton, look at this. Yeah, so I just wanted to mention it again because there's some people who have joined who weren't here earlier when we were talking
Yeah.
about this book.
Jason, should
Um,
you be rendering?
oh yes, I am rendering. This is Adam, and this is Eve.
I don't know how you're able to like be listenable and come up with something that doesn't sound too stupid and draw at the same. I'm drawing underneath too, but it's like you know, it's just too
Well,
much.
I mean, the idea of Adam and Eve at a restaurant, the fact that there'd be like a little candelabra in the middle, a little candle holder in the middle of the table, and maybe they're sitting here. I mean, they're obviously both naked. Uh,
One thing about the cat book is that we learned that
yeah,
basically cats are a very popular source of inspiration because they don't need to go for walks, but they're
right.
just a sort of invisible companion. But we also learned that a lot of these writers get along better with cats or their pets than they do with humans.
I
There's some
believe that.
who are introverts, and I'm fascinated by the subject of inspiration because when I was doing the museum book, I was inspired all the time. One of the reasons why I did crank out so much work is because I came home so anxious to get to work after seeing such beautiful work on the walls and
Right.
seeing. Sometimes it could be a little intimidating because I knew that I could never do something as strong as that, but it was an inspiration at times. It was like overwhelming.
Yeah, no, I believe that. Your process is pretty. It's interesting that you, as you say, came to cartooning pretty late, but you seem to have nailed down a process a pretty accurate and productive process. Would you say?
Well,
You experiment a lot before?
no, it was actually the first cartoon that I did that Bob bought. You know,
That's wild. That's unheard of.
it was the first cartoon, and um, I didn't realize it was going to be so difficult afterwards. But
Yeah,
I
right.
did want to ask
What
you,
was the cartoon, by the way? I never asked you what this was. What was the cartoon?
this is right up your alley. Hecklers on Poetry Night.
Nice. That's great. Actually, my old neighbor, John Farris, he was the poet laureate at the Lower East Side. He used to go to the Nuyorican Poets Cafe on the open mic night and heckle poets. That was what he did. He was notorious for it. He was brutal because he was a poet and he would just like, he was just merciless. He would boo. He would yell shit out at them. It was hilarious. But yeah, he was at his wake back in, I want to say, like 2016. Everyone got up and told stories about him at the Nuyorican Poets Cafe heckling poets.
I wanted to ask you what you thought of getting together with my cartoon group down in Chinatown.
Yeah, so on your publication day of this book, I was surprised you were very generous to invite me along with yourself and the very funny Nick Downs, and with a surprise appearance from Robert Layton, one of my favorite New Yorker cartoonists. That was really cool.
You know,
What was the place again? I always say it wrong.
I'm not sure which one we took you to. Was it Namwa Tea Parlor,
It was. It was.
which is the oldest Chinese restaurant? I made Nick laugh a spit take the other day. I'm going to tell you a story that's a little bit blue. Um, I was in Pennsylvania going to my favorite bagel place, which is Vinny's Original Brooklyn Bagels.
Nice.
And this guy insists that the bagels are the best because he brings the water from Brooklyn. And he goes, you can't make good
It's
bagels.
all about the water.
It's all about the water. And on the side of his bagel store, there was this woman painting this enormous mural.
Right.
And it was Brooklyn, of course, and she was doing the Brooklyn Bridge, and I got to talking to her. She was sort of, I don't know, a little younger than me, sort of a hippie. She had dreads. And I was pointing out to her that there was some different things she could do, just little things, easy to change to make it more accurate because she was doing the Brooklyn Bridge sort of from memory. And
Right.
I was familiar with the bridge and I was telling her that it's coming out nice, blah, blah, blah. So at some point she goes, would you like to come back to my RV?
Oh, okay.
So I told her, I said, I've been celibate for 25 years. Nick, Nick was, Nick was up in, Nick was up in my house. He was staying over at my house. I told him the story and he just had this big spit take. Um, and it is true. It's been 25 years. I don't count my wife.
That's very funny. Nick, getting a spit take from Nick is that's a badge of pride. That's like getting from Robert Klein a "Hey, you killed." That's pretty great.
Nick Down shows me his batches that he submits. They are,
Yeah.
and of course, I got a chance to see the batches of Robert Layton and Gordon Borchardt too. And the work, it's like a privilege to get a chance to see their.
I love their work. I mean, all of them. They're fantastic cartoonists, truly. Robert Layton, for the longest time, I had one of his cartoons on my wall that I cut out of the magazine. It was a cartoonist at his drawing board, and the wife is popping her head in the door saying, "That cartoon you just drew about Trump, yeah, it just happened."
Yeah. Okay, now
This
this
is
is a perfect
this is the
example.
cartoon, by the way. This is
Yeah,
this is
Jason, this is the parlor trick. I'm gonna ask Alex if you guys were in cahoots, and he's actually gave you a tip. Now, I did the same thing. I did a drawing, but I was only able to do it for 10 seconds. But
okay.
it illustrates my point
Wow.
of being willing to share my beadwork, and I was doing it with my left hand and with a stick.
Nice.
Oh,
You really
we're
hamstrung
gonna
there.
get you there. We're gonna get you there. I'm gonna have you draw the going forward.
Okay. Okay. Paul said, very nice. You used the caption I was thinking of. I know, I feel like a hack because it's such it is an obvious caption. May I suggest the apple pie? But I feel like sometimes it's like Hanlon's razor of joke writing. It's like sometimes the obvious joke, if you make it interesting, it can be the best version of the caption. I don't know, but maybe I should have been more lateral
Oh my
thinking.
God, Jake, don't defend yourself.
Um,
If the audience love it, then tell go jump in the lake.
I'm gonna draw. What I'm gonna do for the last one is I'm gonna draw my version of a cat because you draw so many cats in this book. And again, anyone who hasn't seen it, you should take a look at this book. It's called "Inspired by Cats: Writers and Their Muses." So well, bookshop.org is probably the best place to get it, right? To make sure that bookstores, many of which you've drawn, stay open.
Yeah, whatever. And by the way, if you don't like cats, you're a dog person. Well, I know someone who came out with a dog book.
Oh, funny you should mention this, Bob. You're not a real dog owner until available now wherever you buy books. I'm actually going to Williamsport, Pennsylvania on Saturday. You and I have talked about this place before because you're out. Well, it's a schlep for you, but it
Yeah.
is in Pennsylvania. The bookstore there that's been around for like 200 years, Otto Bookstore, is having a Day of the Dog. So everyone's bringing their dogs to the bookstore, getting a copy of the book, and getting a sketch of their dog in the flyleaf. Saturday from I think 10 till 5 or something. It's going to be a long day. So I am going to be drawing a lot of dogs this weekend. So anyone who's in Pennsylvania, come to Williamsport to Otto Bookstore, where myself and my co-author Scott are going to be appearing to draw a hell of a lot of pups. But before we go, I wanted to just I wanted to sort of end where we started, which is nice.
That's where we
It's the
started. We started here.
spitting image of me.
I have to tell because we've been acting nice to each other, but actually we're at the throat because we're both racing to put out the parrot book.
The parrot book.
You-
Oh my God, you'll beat me to every book idea. I guarantee you're way more prolific than me, and
You
do
got
it
that right.
fast. I don't know how you do it so fast as well. I don't know. It freaks me out. Yeah, but coming back to where we started from, the current sort of I don't want to say paradigm. I don't want to use that word, but the where things are right now, where with cartooning, with comedy, all of this sort of stuff is. Back to what I was talking about, Matt Ruby sort of was talking about is that the best comedians, cartoonists, artists, writers, musicians, they all kind of have a version of having to either reinvent themselves or sort of just adapt to the terrain in which they find themselves. And if a joke doesn't work anymore because it's not hitting the same, it's not landing the same, you can't be precious. You got to just kind of retire the joke. But there is something to be said for what we were talking about, which is craftsmanship, which is comedy, giving a crap about the nuance of what makes something good, versus just like the slop. And it does feel like, and I'm banking on this, but it does feel like the real craftsmanship of good jokes and good art and music will hopefully find a way to float to the top among this just the deafening noise, the blaring,
Yeah,
you know, pollution, noise pollution of all of these voices all shouting into the void at once. I still like to think, maybe I'm deluded, but I still like to think the good stuff will rise to the top. Do you think the same?
you're adorable.
Am I completely deluded?
Good. Yeah, my dog. How was your RV trip? You never told me. I
Oh,
want
yes.
was visiting the Midwest and what you saw because we both comment on the political landscape, and I would love to
We
know
do.
what was your takeaway. I really wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, I am. I'm glad you asked that because I haven't really. I've written it up a bit. I'm still editing it because it's too long. But what I found was, in contrast to the road trip I took in October of 2016, it was a comedy tour through Pennsylvania, Indiana, then Missouri, Kentucky, Alabama, Mississippi. We went all over the place. And I came back to New York like Chicken Little because I saw all the Trump Pence signs saying, "Oh my God, he's going to win, you guys, he's going to win." They're like, Hillary's got it in the bag. I'm like, you don't understand. I just went. I saw all the other states. They're all going to be Trump Pence. And then it happened, and everyone's like, "What? How did this happen?" I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of saw this." And then out west now, in July, uh, Trump 2.0. I went from Oregon, so Washington State through Oregon and Northern California, and obviously Oregon very blue, Portland in particular very blue. Um, Washington has these interesting is an interesting mix like Tacoma and Seattle. Um, and Northern California, a lot of these places that used to just be full of hippies and left leaning people, a lot of them are red now. They either flipped in the last election or they went purple, and it's kind of unsettling to see. And they all had a different version or reason or sort of they all had their own rationale for why not going with the Democrats, and it's not that they totally agreed with the ethos or the philosophy of Trump or the MAGA crowd. It's just that they had an issue and they were single issue voters, a lot of them, and just went, well, there's one party that's going to do the thing that I want, so I'm just going to hold my nose and vote for them. Um, yeah, it was interesting. It was different than I've been up there a bunch of times. I've been to Portland a lot, and I've been to I love Portland, but I've been to Seattle a few times. Been to all over Northern California. I was just there this past week. I was in Palo Alto, and I drove through down the 101 through um, Santa Barbara and uh, where did I stop? San Luis Obispo is where I stopped, and then went down to LA. And yeah, you see a lot of, it's strange. There's a lot of Trump. So, I mean, Santa Barbara, it's Trumpy, it's weird. It's quite conservative. Yeah, just interesting. It was just fascinating for me to see the change.
Did you get a sense of where their news source was besides our newsletters? Where were they getting news?
There were televisions on everywhere I went, and a lot of them were showing either Fox News or CNN, which was interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, all the bars, all the restaurants, the diners, they all had screens, many, many screens, and a lot of
Oh,
them were playing. If they were playing the news, they were playing Fox or CNN.
I'm sorry to go down this road, but I'm
No,
glad.
no, it's fascinating to me. This
Okay.
is my yeah,
I want to end on a happier note
sure.
and not rapidograph or something, but are there any questions that people brought to the table that we should?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we had people. Janice Driver said, yeah, Vancouver, Washington too. Unfortunately, red. Yeah. We had some questions. We had some requests for drawings, but um, uh, BC2 said, sounds familiar. Getting along better with cats than people. Yeah. Um, Mark Twain story. Victor Chongshua, who said that, he also tried out Bob Mankoff's game. The Mark Twain story is my favorite because the sister had a uniquely named cat flowers that bloom. And my favorite illustration is in the book is of Edgar Allan Poe and his shoulder cat. What's the deal with the shoulder cat? What is this? I didn't see that page.
No, thank you very much for the compliments. No, it's one of the illustrations, Edgar Allan Poe. His first draft of The Raven was actually the chicken. He actually,
Serious?
yeah, he was trying to work it out. He just shopped it around. It was the cow, but then he landed on the raven, and
Wow.
now it's a football helmet. I mean, you can't go wrong with that story. The Baltimore,
Right.
or because Edgar Allan Poe is from Baltimore.
Is that why they're called the Baltimore Ravens?
Yeah, what did you think? Of course.
I don't know. I thought it was like a natural native, bird on the flag or something. I didn't know it was because of Edgar Allan Poe. That's the most insane thing to name a sports team after a literary giant because he's from Baltimore. I love Baltimore. It's like
Yeah,
it's like,
of course.
wait, you're naming your team after a writer?
Did you ever hear of the Louisiana lotteries? That
No.
that's Shirley Jackson's The Lottery.
Are you serious?
No, of course not. It's just for the story. What are you reading it?
This is great. I never know because I'm an immigrant. I don't know these things. Edgar Allan Poe. This is the shoulder cat. Edgar Allan Poe. I do remember this now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at that little
All right, not so
creeping
close.
the hell
Not
out
so
of it.
pull it back, Jason. Work
Yeah.
with me.
The Baltimore Chickens. There we go. Yeah, that's Joseph.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is very cool. I mean, there's a lot I didn't know about a lot of these people. Some of my favorite writers, including Jack Handy, one of the greats.
I've
Yeah,
had to work with him, and it's been an honor because I consider him, like the New York Times says, one of our greatest humorists of our generation. And
I
work
agree.
with him has been really an inspiration. And that's what the book is about. It's great. You love cats. But the point is that it's supposed to give you an idea of what anything can inspire us. You find this
Mm.
in almost anything. And some of those people I happen to know myself personally, and they've inspired me. And it's been something that's an honor to know them.
That's very cool. Yeah, I mean the book is a who's who of writers. It's incredible. So the fact that you know any of them is wild to me. That's crazy that we live in the same time as these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was people
Um.
who want to be in the book. And I'll give a little inside baseball quickly. You know,
Yeah.
I,
I was going to ask you about that actually.
I showed paintings of certain people. And I'm going to say it because she's not on this feed. But Joyce Carol Oates, I
Hmm.
had a picture of her when she was 84. And when I sent it to her, she just wrote me back, no. So she gave me back a picture that was in her 60s, and we did a drawing of her then. No way. Then we worked on pictures of her in her 40s. Eventually, I did a painting of her when she was 19. And only because I said, we're not going anymore. I'm not going to be getting any baby pictures from her.
Baby photos.
Yeah. But what I learned was that everybody wants to be rendered 20 years younger and 20 pounds lighter. And
Sure, of course.
And I don't blame them because if it was, you get uptight seeing yourself. There's a shock value when you first see the portrait. And then
Mm.
later, some of the writers would say, I've grown to love the painting. But if initially, it was just a bit much to see themselves painted.
Yeah,
And there
because
was
they
some,
have an idea in their head of what they look like, and it's different than what you actually look like.
yeah, and there were certain people who came in the book and left the book. David Sedaris at first was
I
not.
saw him last night in New York. I was talking to him last night. He did a reading at Town Hall last night, and I met him afterwards, and he signed my book, and we were talking about cartoonists, and he did a book. He just did a children's book, and yeah, he strikes me as the kind of person because I drew a picture of him as well. I gave him a little thing, and he does strike me as the kind of person who would either love or hate a self-portrait or a portrait of him. He has strong opinions on pretty much everything and has no compunction about telling you. He has no problem telling you if he hates something.
In his case, it was not the drawing, but it was actually the book itself. A lot of the writers, the control, they're all very renowned, established writers who don't want to hand over the control of how they're going to be depicted in words or in an illustration. They want to have a final say.
Hmm,
So there was some
that's interesting.
you have to
Okay.
like at some point and say, you know, they had to do a leap. And as such, a few people dropped out that were in the book because they,
Yeah, okay.
you know, whatever. Let's go to it. See if there's another question.
Oh, yeah. So Ken Crimstein just joined. Hi, Ken. I'm a big fan of Ken. Wow.
As always, late.
Um,
Nice going, Ken. Okay, so Jason, do you want to start over from Mr. Crimson?
yeah, we'll go from the start just for you, Ken. All right, we'll start over again. All right, 3, 2, 1, go, Bob. Hey, Bob, welcome to the show. How you doing?
What an ego, the size of God.
We everyone seems to have really, yeah. Ken said, "When do I get my check?"
Yeah, go to the mailbox, Ken.
Yeah, it's in the mail. We do have to wrap up, but Bob, this was really great. You and I, we're going to do this again because I know there's a lot of topics we didn't touch. But I feel like this is the kind of thing that we could just do for hours and hours on end and talk shop and procrastinate from doing our actual work. Uh, for hours. Thank you for sharing your studio. That was really cool, and everyone seemed to think the seat, the Adirondack chair on the roof is mind blowingly cool. Um,
Great to see you.
anyone who's watching now who doesn't follow, who doesn't subscribe to Bob's newsletter, please do so. You should see a little button next to his head on the top saying subscribe. So subscribe to The Bob, which is Bob's weekly newsletter. And obviously, if you haven't subscribed to me, I don't know, maybe you got here through Bob. So if you want to subscribe to my newsletter, it's called New York Cartoons. You can subscribe here, and this replay will be going out. I listen back and I do a recap of the talk, and I put that out a day or two later. So that'll go out probably tomorrow or Saturday, and that'll be paywalled. But yeah, thank you to everyone who tuned in today. And thank you, Bob. This was really fun.
No, it's great. I missed you, so this is really a treat. Let's get back.
This is great. Yeah,
Okay, great.
absolutely. Let's go get some dumplings sometime.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See ya.